all of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is, T.G. Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
I infiltrate the Illuminati, find out what the fuck they got going on, get the information, run back to y'all, tell y'all everything I know. That's my motherfucking job. But I don't know how many more times I'm gonna be able to sneak in there. Thanks to Shannon Sharp and 90 million views, I can't sneak very often. So while I was in there this last time, knowing that my last report might be my last report, I went in there and I got information for everybody. Look at my white friends. Us too? That's right, white secrets.
Because that's all you know me for, is that I'm quite likely to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hope I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no.
Katt Williams just sent a warning that got the whole industry uneasy. This time, he's not just calling out what's been happening. He's hinting at who's next to get silenced in 2026. Word is, the pattern already started, and the names he's pointing at way bigger than people expected. If he's right, some voices are about to disappear right when they get too close to the truth. Right after Katt Williams started speaking again, not joking, and not his usual entertainment, but specific warnings. Because Katt didn't just say people get silenced, he started pointing at patterns. Who speaks too much, gets labeled, and suddenly disappears from the spotlight right when they get too close to something real. And once you follow that trail, certain names start standing out. First name that fits that pattern, Wendy Williams. Y'all remember her. She hosting lots of celebs on her show. She knew way too much ahead of time. That one time she hosted Diddy and he mentioned her son, she got uncomfortable.
I just felt like us as African-American men and women, we needed to have a story that had a happy ending. A success story.
And let me tell you something. As the mother of a now 16-year-old,
who I met backstage,
he did.
He's a great young man.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. You represent a lot to a lot of people in general.
She was loud, fearless, talking about industry behavior, calling out powerful figures, even questioning what goes on behind closed doors. In one interview, she talked about Diddy trying to control dudes to dress like females. And what happened next? She got labeled, pushed out, isolated. The narrative flipped on her fast. One minute she's hosting, next minute she's being described like she can't function. They even slammed her with lawsuits to take her kids.
Right, well, Kanye had the kill. And then ASAP had the long dress.
Yeah.
Have you seen the ASAP picture?
Yeah, I'm not down with any of that. I mean, wouldn't be my man.
No?
No.
We brought in Lord Jamar from Brand Nubian. Because he had made some comments about that.
What did he say?
Well, he talked about the whole feminization of hip hop culture from the 80s on. You know?
I think he's taking the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about how, when we were younger, you would wear an earring in your left ear, and that was considered straight, and the earring in your right ear, that would be gay. And then at one point, people started wearing both earrings, and you know what I mean?
And then they started wearing girl pants, and then they're wearing jeggings, and then, yes, it's very effeminized, but be very clear. There were lots of homosexuals in hip hop back in the 80s too. That was what's worse, hip hop wearing skirts or hip hop being closeted and having a plethora of kids to prove manhood that, and denial of something that you shouldn't have to deny, which is your sexuality. So I hear what Jamar is saying, but we come from a very homosexual era of hip hop as well. There was a radio personality once upon a time. Her name was Wendy Williams, and she was practically burned at the stake.
Now pause right there, because Katt's point wasn't just about Wendy. It was about what happens when you don't stay quiet. He basically said once they can't control you, they don't argue with you, they remove you from the conversation. So now the question becomes, who's next? Trust the online community not to miss that detail. On Wendy's interview of Diddy, one user slammed hard. He brought up meeting her son so she wouldn't ask him any crazy questions she was going to ask him. Another said the way Wendy stuttered when Diddy said he met her son son. Wendy was so uncomfortable during this interview. Everything has been hidden in plain sight. Yet another wrote, the fear in her voice that he had set sights on her son stopped her in her tracks. Poor Wendy. What they have done to her is sickening. Next name circling the block, Dave Chappelle. Katt brought him up for a reason. Dave walked away from a deal worth hundreds of millions, not because he couldn't handle fame, but because something didn't sit right. And right after that, the narrative switched. Suddenly people trying to paint him like he lost it, like he wasn't in the right headspace. But years later, he comes back, same voice with clarity. So now people looking back like, hold on, was that an attempt to push him out for not playing along? And if that happened once, what's stopping it from happening again in 2026? Now this gets deeper because Katt didn't stop at individuals, he connected it to networks. And one name that keeps appearing in those conversations is Jeffrey Epstein. Not saying anything directly, but pointing at how systems operate, recruitment, influence, control, and more importantly, how people who try to expose those systems don't just get ignored, they get shut down. And once you understand that, you start looking at people differently, like who's been talking too much recently, who's been getting closer to sensitive conversations, who's been asking questions others avoid. Now here's where it gets real, because after naming all these patterns, Katt subtly turned the spotlight on himself. And that's when people started paying attention for real, because he basically made it clear, if you're loud enough about the truth, you don't stay safe. And that includes him. He hinted that even he knows he's not outside of that system, that speaking this openly puts a target on your back. And when you look at everything he's been saying lately, it's not jokes anymore, it's warnings. Now let that sink, because Katt didn't just talk about comedians, he pointed at the system itself. And one name that keeps coming up in that system is Sean Diddy Combs. Katt been vocal about that situation for years, not just recently, but going all the way back, and this is where things start getting uncomfortable. Y'all remember when Katt Williams was out here loud, telling anybody who'd listen that the truth was gonna spill and a lot of powerful folks was gonna get exposed. Back then, people brushed it off, said he was just talking. But now, it's all lining up different. People know Katt been speaking heavy on Diddy for a minute, even on major platforms. He hinted at behind closed doors behavior, DL parties, private gatherings, stuff he said he wanted no part of. He even claimed he turned down massive money multiple times, just to avoid being pulled into situations he didn't agree with.
Because that's all you know me for, is that I'm quite likely to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hope I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no.
Hey, in Hollywood, you never expected. They be having these big mansion parties, and the mansion party, the whole mansion is a party, and then it's a separate party in the little rooms. I ain't been famous that goddamn long. I'm excited in a to be at the mansion party. You be looking in all the goddamn rooms, and you around and look in the wrong room. And
Do you know what the #1 job of somebody that sold their soul in Hollywood is?
What?
Is to act like it didn't happen. They all do the same job.
And that right there changes everything, because now it's not just talk, it's someone saying they saw the door and chose not to walk through it. But here's the twist, once you say no, you don't just walk away clean. So Katt hinting that he too ain't safe no more. Katt also talked about how artists with massive contracts can suddenly get labeled, pushed out, or replaced. And that brings us to another name, Chris Tucker. Katt mentioned how Chris once stood firm on certain decisions, then later ended up in situations people questioned, flights, associations, connections that didn't sit right with the public. Now, nothing confirmed, but again, it's about pattern. People who get close to certain circles either adapt or they get pushed out. Another name tied to this conversation is Kanye West. Love him or not, he's been loud, talking about control, industry systems, secret codes, and about how fame works behind the scenes.
Information is harder to find than you think. It's secret codes. Like even when Jay-Z gave a little bit of codes on 444, there's people I know that tweeted or were texting each other like, he's giving codes away.
And what happened? He got labeled, dismissed, called everything except someone worth listening to. But here's the problem. The more people ignore him, the more his past statements start lining up with things coming out later. This got the online community talking. A user said they call him crazy, but he never lied. Another wrote, Kanye is absolutely sane. They wanted him to appear unhinged. Get in the boat, people. Now pause for a second, because when you line all these names up, Wendy Williams, Dave Chappelle, Katt Williams, Kanye West, Chris Tucker, and others, you start seeing a pattern that's hard to ignore. Speak too much, you get labeled. Refuse control, you get pushed out. Get too close to certain truths, and suddenly everything around you starts shifting. So now the real question isn't who got silenced before, it's who's about to be next. Because Katt didn't just talk about the past, he made it sound like 2026 is already in motion, like the system already knows who's getting too loud and moves are already being made behind the scenes. And if that's true, then the scariest part isn't what we've already seen, it's what's about to happen. Now, spotlight on you. Do you think all of this is just coincidence? Or do you believe there's a pattern in who gets labeled, who gets removed, and who stays protected? Why do the same types of voices always get pushed out when they start talking too much? And if Katt Williams is even halfway right, who do you think is next in line to be silenced? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're all in for raw truths and bold takes, hit that like, subscribe, and click on that next video popping on your screen now.